My guest today is Matt Barnes. Matt runs Leisure Club over in the East Market. But more than that, he's a founder, he's an artist, and what I really enjoy is he's an advocate for meaningful third spaces. In this episode, we talk about third spaces. We also talk about the Columbus art scene, and we talk about Columbus in general. Ever since I was introduced to Matt and his work, I've been a real fan of the style and kind of the vibe he curates in not just his art, but the spaces he puts together. We'll talk about community, culture, the arts in Columbus, and much more on this chronicle of the Columbus Chronicle. I really want to talk about your story because,
Yeah.
I moved around a few places, but it looked like in the beginning of your life, you jumped around a lot before settling in Columbus. Tell me about that. How did
My dad was in television. He was a television cameraman. So I was born in Portland, Oregon. And then we moved to Illinois. And he finished up school at SIU, which is like top 3 program at the time for film and television. And he had a choice, go in front of the camera or behind the camera. And he was like, I'm going to go behind the camera. And then we moved from Illinois to Missouri, where he worked at a small station in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And then we moved to St. Louis for a little while, and then we lived in Tucson, Arizona. I think he was with a CBS affiliate there. And then we moved to Wichita, Kansas. And then from Wichita, we moved to Columbus. And all of that may have been like an apartment here, apartment there. But we moved to Columbus. I ended up here when I was like 14, and then finished up high school here, then went to Ohio State. And through my time in high school, we had 3 residences. And then when I got into college, I had a number of residences, like 1 every year during college. And then by the time I graduated, I forget what the number was. It's like by the time I was 30, I had like 27 residences. So I got real familiar with like my environment, my space. I would like dig into my room and try to set it up and try to create some semblance of normalcy. All the while like finding solace in my sketchbooks and in movies and just art history. And that's how kind of my interests morphed. I got a degree in fine arts from Ohio State, specialization in photography, but with more of a lean towards studio arts. I really loved installation. I promised myself during that time I would not paint until I was 40. I made this big long like commitment to myself. I'm like, you cannot pick up a paintbrush, no paints until you're 40. You got to try everything else. Paint with stuff, like objects or images or whatever, light. And yeah, so I held true to that until a couple of years ago.
and how old were you
When I started painting?
Yeah.
43.
you surpassed your
Yeah, I was past it. I was like, I'm good. I can keep going. No one's calling for it until somebody called. I had a buddy of mine that I used to work with. I hadn't talked to him in like 20 years, 25 years. And I put up some drawings randomly on Instagram, and he called me and he's like, dude, can you paint me one of those? I'm like, I don't really paint. And these are pencil. They're not color. He's like, I want one really big in oil paint in color. Can you do that? And I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. He's like, name your price. I was like, okay, I'm a painter. But I got myself this long project where I was like, all right, I'm going to do 24 drawings in color. Then I'll mess around with oil paint, get familiar with it, do like 4 or 5 little ones. And then I stepped to this big 6 foot by 5 foot painting. It was my first official painting. And then, so I can tell people I sold my first painting before I even painted it.
I feel like you have so many different mediums that you focus on. You've done photography, you do that physical space as an art too. You do the sketches, which those are different mediums as well. Do you have a favorite
I'm painting right now.
painting?
Yeah, I stepped to the canvas in October. So I finished that painting for my friend, and then I was like, all right, I'm good. Went on and focused more on the Leisure Club and getting that kind of zhuzhed, and then spent a while doing that. And then I came to a point in October, I'm like, I just want to do something different. So I pulled up a bunch of canvases I'd been storing, and I was like, I'm gonna give myself 6 months, and I'm just gonna run and make as many paintings as I can for 6 months, and then at the end of 6 months, see where it is. So I just finished on April 15th my 18th painting. So
18.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah.
I want to go back to your story growing up and then going to college, major in fine arts, and then right after graduation. What does that look like?
Oh man, that was a whirlwind. I had been caddying at Muirfield for all of high school, all of college, got done with college, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go clock in somewhere. And I'd been working with this caddy for this guy who's a huge investor in Fisher College of Business, kind of became a mentor for me. And he was like, you don't need to work for anybody else ever. He's like, you just figure out what it is you want to do and go make money on it. And I was like, light bulb moment for me, or I was like, you just need a business plan and you can do it. And so I have always been, what fine art school taught me was how to solve problems with disparate bits of data. So giving yourself an assignment, but putting hard stipulations on the assignment, forced an outcome, whatever that outcome might be. And I think about that with problem solving. And so one of the conversations that I heard a lot of out on the golf course was about the city of Columbus and how it really doesn't have an identity. You know, it's either beer guzzling football fans or shopping mall foodies, and that's it. We're not the Big Apple, or we're not the weird city. We're just kind of like right in the middle. Not very old. You know, Cleveland's got an identity, I think. It's got a grittiness to it. Cincinnati has an essence to it, and it has history. Columbus really doesn't have a lot of history, so that's both good and bad. Good that we have this canvas to work with and create whatever it is that we want. Bad that we don't already have something established in place to work from. So when that question was kind of posed, how do you give a city an identity? It's like, well, I think you just pool together all the creative capital in one place, put it all on display, show itself to itself, you know, almost like a mirror.
Yeah.
And so I created this event called Show Columbus. And Show Columbus was a fine art experience. We used these different businesses on Gay Street, from Duamici to Skylab to the Vault to Cafe Brioso when it was across the street, and a number of those businesses in there. And we just put something different from the creative fields in there. So at Duamici, we had chamber musicians that were playing in the corner, like a stand-up cello or a flute or something. Then there was a spoken word slam taking place in one of the other coffee shops that was there. We had a DJ spinning at one of the other coffee shops. And then the Vault, at Skylab, there was like a fine art exhibition going on up there. Then we had another fine art exhibition going on inside the Vault. But when you walked up, there was a chocolate tasting on the left and a wine tasting on the right. And there was a jazz trio in the corner when you walked into the main space. And then every half hour, there was a different like dance exhibition that would come on, break dancing, experimental dance. And then the evening was concluded with this kind of couture fashion show where the models came out of the Vault on a long runway.
Too cool.
It was sweet. It was really fun. But first rule of business is don't use your own money. And I learned that one firsthand. We ate our shoes on both events, but it was great because there were 800 people at each event, and there was an opportunity for like that civic collision. People are like, oh, you do what? Learning about one another and then finding out ways to collaborate. And then I think that's making that platform for where collision can take place, helps you kind of identify the culture. You can't control the outcome of the culture, but you can provide little petri dishes for it to kind of manifest on its own.
Yeah, and that ties into the importance of third spaces, which I definitely wanna hit on, in a little bit. You kinda mentioned that, like, the first thing you did, and then when I look at your resume, it's, like, founder after co-founder after, part founder, tell me about the projects and that bug for just creating and being a founder.
Interesting. I think like at my core, I love problem solving. I love coming up with like outcomes based on those disparate bits of data. So if it's
Yeah.
something like a civic identity, how do you solve that? It's, put the creative capital on display. When it comes to seeing new tools and technologies out there, and thinking of ways to use those. Let's see. After Show Columbus, I took a couple roles in marketing, and then I had this kind of idea. This was right around the time Twitter came out, and I'm like, how do you blend the digital world with the physical world? And I wanted to use it kind of as a marketing tool for my own creations, and so I started making these little 4" by 4" collages. And collage is a weird medium for me because I spent a significant amount of time making collage work, and I don't know what wherein lies the catharsis for me, but there was something there for a while. So anyway, I was making these like 4" by 4" tiles. I would link up with a brand. The brand would award them value anywhere from $5 to $500. I would take it. I would hide it in the environment on a street corner or near a civic monument, photograph it, giving away visual clues to its location, and then post it on social media. So it created this like real-time geocaching, and people would jump up and race each other to grab the piece. And it was awesome because I would hang out behind the bushes and like watch people go and grab the piece. And sometimes there'd be 5 people that would show up, like park their car real fast and run out and grab it. And that was a good time. And that kind of spun into experiential advertising. So it was like, I'm banking a lot of my time, energy, and attention on this one platform, Twitter. I was like, what happens if their CEO says something dumb and tanks he goes away? I'm like, I'm cooked, so I can't do that. This needs to be a card in my deck. So at the time I'd been going around doing some like speaking at universities, and I met this young man, and we just hit it off. Like, let's open up an ad agency and let's put this little game in our pocket as a card in the deck, and um, let's start going after big accounts to do fun outdoor things that cross over from the physical realm to the digital realm.
Such an interesting concept.
Well, it's like leverage those networks. Like if you're marketing to one person, you're trying to blast that out from your Instagram handle with 100,000 followers. You're going to hit maybe 5 to 10% of that, maybe. And then but if you can create something that other people are going to photograph and share in their networks, then your reach is like massive. Yeah. So that was the plan, was like create these things that cause virality or micro virality.
And you've done it very well, because how I found Leisure Club actually was through that sort of marketing effort, because I follow a musician named Petey, who I love his music, I love his comedy skits,
Yeah.
and I saw the Leisure Club hoodie, and I was like, "Oh, it's a cool hoodie, I wonder where you got." I remember looking up Leisure Club just out of a whim, and I was like, "Columbus, Ohio, like, that's insane. It's right here." So, just an example of that works, because whether or not everyone who saw that looks it up, a few people did, and then a few people from that are in that area and then get connected to your brand through that,
Yep.
which is so interesting. What do you think about the scene or identity in Columbus now?
Hmm. Still the same. Still kind of the same. It's a little firmer, I think, in the creative aspect. But we are a university town with I want to say we retain with, like, there was a big whole thing about brain drain, and they spent a bunch of money to make sure to do the survey to see why we were losing people or how we could keep people. They included excerpts from Richard Florida's Rise of the Creative Class. You've read that book before?
No, I haven't.
It's interesting. It basically boils down to creatives moving into lower income areas, sparking up some like interest in the space, and then developers coming through and then defining that area as like a new hip cool part of town. I think Chelsea or Soho in New York City, or
Meanwhile, pushing out those creatives.
eventually they like there's a period of utilization, because I don't think the creative's place is there. The creative's place is in scratching up the dust, shining it a little bit and saying, come look at this thing. So there's like a role for the creative, but the creative doesn't have to stick around and isn't necessarily like entitled to sticking around, which is important because as a creative, you want to plant your roots, but your creativity is bounded then, I think. Like, you're not introduced to new things, you're not inspired by the struggle, you're not inspired by the disparate things around you that you can draw on to problem solve.
So you've been here a decent amount of time then. What draws your inspiration then?
Here,
Yeah.
people. People are where I'm at right now. Like, in my life, I am really dedicated to creating experiences and environments that give people a sense of self, that fill their cup up, and then they go out into the world spilling over, and they share that with others. That's what my plan and my goal is now, is like create environments and experiences for people that fill them up and send them out into the world, sharing that.
And that makes sense and a great transition into what you're doing now with Leisure Club. I would love to know the story of Leisure Club, h the founding of it.
Man, 2017, a buddy of mine and I were getting together for happy hours pretty regularly. And every Thursday we'd get together and we'd meet at a local brewery and or bar or whatever. And at one point we'd been going to this one place. I will not name names. Um, but we were going to
You
this,
can if you want, I'm just saying.
we were just at this one place all the time. And I remember one night after my third, what did you say? I got real critical of the environment. I'm like, man, I'm raising my voice. I am uncomfortable in this seat. There are screens everywhere. Playlist is garbage. I'm If I want an extra drink, I have to wait on somebody waiting on me. If I don't want an extra drink and I'm in the middle of my conversation with my friend, they're coming up or interrupting, like, can I get you something else? Can I get you something else? Which is disruptive to me. And then I'm also like kind of on edge with maybe some of the other characters in the space, where I'm like, I don't know any of these people, and that one guy looks like he's over imbibing and might have to fight him later. And um, so I got really critical of that environment, and I started looking around like, this is not, I don't want this. If I'm spending my leisure time in this, um, this is not the type of environment that I want to spend that time in. In our conversations, there's this breakdown of life. It's in three parts. It's production, labor, and leisure. Production is maintaining yourself and your immediate radial environment. That means your holistic wellness, from your financial wellness to your physical space to the love and care you give to your family, your working out, getting massage, get your nails did, whatever. Production is just taking care of yourself and those things around you. Labor is using your unique skills to contribute back to humanity. Leisure is your opportunity to celebrate in the abundance of life. In each one of those comes its own place, its own dress code, its own social network, and its own lexicon. I speak differently to my family than I do to my coworkers, and I dress differently in front of my coworkers than I do in front of my friends. And so third place options, I started looking at it. I'm like, home office, third place, where do I go and what do I do when I'm there? It's like coffee shop, gym, church, shopping mall, country club, salon, gym. I'm like, man, all those places are so either ideologically driven or commerce driven or unapproachable. And so I don't know that any of those fit the vibe. One brand that I have respected throughout my business career was Abercrombie. The way that they set up their environments, they were I grew up in like retail heyday, and Abercrombie understood the visceral nature of space. You walk into an environment and they hit you on all your senses. They give you like, the scent, the sound, the textures, the feeling of the space, and then the visuals. The visuals represent a potential lifestyle that you could live, and to access that lifestyle, we'll sell you the clothes. And once you buy the clothes, good luck. Go make the rest of it happen on your own. And for me, I'm like, man, what a miss. Because here they have this captive audience of people that are aspiring to be in their spaces.
And they've cultivated it.
They've cultivated it completely, and then they sell them something, and then they're gone. And it's like, yes, sell them something, but how else can you keep them there? You've got the space already in place. You've got this captive audience that loves what you're doing. Can you sell them a travel package? Can you sell them a music series? Can you sell them an ebook? Like, what else can you do with that audience that isn't so one-dimensional and transactionally focused? The money's going to be there. Like, I think about this a lot with brands and the way that they're working right now. The money's going to be there. You have to give them something that is like worthy of their loyalty, worthy of their attention and their time. And if it's valuable to them, then perhaps they'll open their wallets.
And it feels like a big part of that is like a community, is cultivating that community where you feel like you said, it's not just a transactional thing. You're part of this bigger collective of people who all share a similar interest to you, or at least a similar vibe, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Leisure Club's founded.
Yeah.
Uh, you guys jumped from a few different locations, and now you're in East Market. I got to know Leisure Club when it was over in Grandview,
Yeah.
and I've always just been a huge fan of your vibe and aesthetic at that place. It's just it's retro, but it has so many different feels to it. It's really cool. How did you end up getting the physical space, and how did that come about?
Oh man, that's a great question. Hey, physical space has been important for me for a long time, from offices to retail stores to just studios and things like that. So after that conversation at the local brewery, well, let's pool our happy hour budget. Let's put some money together and let's go get a little space. We'll throw a couch, a mini fridge, and we can invite people over and have like long form conversations without interruption. And so we did that. We would open up a spot at 400 West Rich, and on Franklinton Fridays, we'd open our doors and people would come in and they're like, oh my God, this aesthetic and this vibe is so cool. You guys need to do something else. So I had some extra pocket change burning a hole in my pocket. And I was like, well, we're not ready to like take this to the street yet. Like, we need to bake this out and see what we have. So I looked for spaces and finally landed on one at 2000 South High Street, at the Fort. Have you been there yet?
I've not been in. I've been by it plenty of times.
Beautiful building, beautiful space, great operators, lovely. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Um, the we got a spot over there. It was like 1,500 square foot office on the second floor. I'm like, we can make it a destination and people still want to come down here and have experiences. Then maybe we have something, and then we can take it to the street and make it a real deal thing. We moved in over there, spent 3 months building it out. And then within the first month of opening our doors, we were in the black. We rented it out for a bunch of private events. We did a brainstorming session for Nationwide's creative department. We did product launches for Seven Sun. It was right when they were opening up Antiques on High. And then we did a ticketed music show for this nationally touring musician. And it was like, we're off to the races after that. And then it kind of got a little jumbled with COVID. I mean, we had some time in there.
So this was happening right before COVID hit.
Right
then.
before
Wow.
COVID. So it was like about 2019 when we started to kind of catch wind at the beginning there. And then, it was 2020 and it was like, we need to pivot. We had to leave that space because it was predicated specifically on the gathering of people. So we had to liquidate all of the items in our space. Then we had this one closet that we had given to a friend of ours. He put some vintage t-shirts in there, and we threw some vintage t-shirts in there as we were sourcing decor for the environment. And we're like, let's just flip t-shirts on Instagram until, just keep beer money flowing, just cover happy hour. And it worked for a little while. And as COVID was starting to sunset, I'd looked at maybe a dozen different places and found that spot in Grandview. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. It's just off the beaten path. 2 little rooms. We'll make it like a little retail speakeasy. Make it like really dialed, taking all my skills I'd amassed at Abercrombie and apply them to this store. And we'll make it like a little retail speakeasy. And we'll invite people through, and we'll have some beers on Fridays and see how long we can go. And so for 2 years, that's what we did. Kept the lights on, had a lot of good experiences, people's birthday parties, and a lot of happy hours and good times. It was awesome. Sold a lot of vintage t-shirts. At one point, we started offering our own apparel, and that started to outpace everything. And I'm like, oh, I think we might have something here. Let's lean into the apparel a little bit. And then that forced kind of a sunset of the vintage where it was like, we don't need this anymore. Let's go ahead and just keep pushing our own apparel. And then I had an opportunity, it was right at the tail end of our lease in Grandview. And I had a customer who was coming in pretty regularly, picking up like some of the better items. And he's like, I got a friend who's starting this beer company. And I think this vibe matches perfectly with him. I'll make an intro. I was like, cool. He made an intro, and this guy, Andy Sauer, comes in, and it was like I'd known him forever. Like upon that like first handshake, I was like, oh, I know this guy. It's like kindred spirits immediately. And we sat there and talked forever. And specifically, we talked about community and how COVID shook everybody in a way that it forced our lives into like digital experience. Like everything we do now, I order my groceries online, all my clothes, my shoes, everything comes from online. So now I've got some extra time. I'm not driving to the grocery store. I'm not driving to the shopping mall. And I don't really have that exposure to people anymore. Where am I like going to see or potentially meet people? And for him and his buddies, it was in their garages during COVID. They would all get together and crack some light beers and hang out. And for me, it was inviting people over to Leisure Club and just hanging out in that space. And so we just kind of hit it off. And he's like, I'm sitting on this lease over at the East Market. He's like, it's technically our headquarters, but it's a card table and we make a couple phone calls once a week. I was like, and the rest of the week we're out. He's like, you want to come take a look at it? Tell me what you do. And I'm like, sure. I came out there, I looked at the space. I'm like, this is beautiful. I mean, if you haven't been to the new location or the one
All that
at
brick.
East Market, yeah, I know the brick and natural light. It is one of the most beautiful buildings in Columbus. And shout out to Connect for redeveloping that whole area. It's a beautiful. Trolley District is a nice addition to the city of Columbus. And I showed up to the space, and I'm like, this is beautiful. He's like, what would you do with it? Well, I'm like social members club. We'll program it, rent it out for private events, let people come here and just hang out. He's like, cool. He's like, you want it? I'm like, yeah, I do. Of course, it'd be great. He's like, just serve our beer. I was like, cool, man, no problem. So it's been a really symbiotic relationship, and it's given me an opportunity to kind of further bake out the concept. And now I've got there's another leisure club that's opening up in Delaware. This one's a leisure club lounge.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, so it's got a full liquor license, and we'll have really nice cocktails and still a lot of the same rustic Americana vibes, and it'll be just like a different experience, but all still labeled leisure club.
Yeah, incredible. Well, congrats on the expansion, and also like the garage beer guys. They've just been booming, man. I feel like I had never seen a can of it like 2 years ago, and now like whenever I have a get together with friends, at least one of them comes with a pack of garage beer. So
Yeah.
it's really funny to
It's
see that
covering the planet,
for
man.
us.
They're
Yeah,
crushing it. It's so fun to be around, like watching their explosive growth and
and
just
be
being
part of
in.
it with Leisure Club.
It's being even earshot to their growth and development has been a blessing in my life. It's been great. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
And I love those guys.
Now Leisure Club also does, correct me if I'm wrong, comedy stand-up. Kinda tell me about that. That's awesome.
So we do. We try to cover all the bases in terms of entertainment. I like to do some educational entertainment. We've done some things with Matt Lofi with the Dad Ass podcast, and we did do this thing called Dad X and Mom X, which is pretty awesome. Parents come and talk about the either tips and tricks of the trade or kind of best practices for being a parent, what it's like to be a dad, what it's like to be a mom, and it's I love doing those types of things. We will probably at some point down the road introduce like adulting classes. I think it's a thing, man. I think there's an absolute market for it right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Teaching people how to do their taxes or teaching them about wills or what it's like to go through probate court or whatever. Oh, comedy. You said comedy. Yeah. So educational entertainment, music. We do a lot of music shows. Love supporting local musicians. We do some singer-songwriters, sometimes full bands. We have a partnership with the Columbus Symphony Orchestra where they'll bring in members from different sections. We've done wind, horns. Oh man, string. We've done a lot of great performances in that space with the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. And we've had bands like Year the Buffalo come in and perform. They've done sold out shows. I would have to say that one of their shows was like top 3 of my life. Just being in that room with 50 other people. The ceilings in that downstairs area are vaulted, so they're 20 feet high. So it captures this sound, and I don't know. It was just like it was spiritual moment. It was absolutely beautiful. And then comedy came on with uh, an introduction to the scene. I mean, the Attic is a mile down the road, roughly, and I met Jessie Sisson one night randomly. And if you haven't met her or follow her or see any of her Instagram posts, she's a hilarious comedian here locally. And she was like, "Let's talk." I was like, "I want to have some comedy. I think it'd be a good feature to have here." And we started organizing shows back in April of last year. So we're on 1 month, or I'm sorry, 1 year now of doing comedy shows, and it's been amazing. We've had sold out shows for national acts from all over. We've had people that write for like the Colbert Show and the Daily Show, and people that have interviewed on Joe Rogan's podcast, and some people that open for nationally touring uh, comedians, some really big names. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
do you feel that 'cause, this all seemed to stem from the want for, like, a space and that community and to build that. Are you finding that you've curated or created that community space?
Yeah, 1,000%, man. I think, you look at like what most their spaces do. I mean, if you break it down simply and you're like the gym, you have a lot of people who enjoy fitness, and so they get together and they give each other tips and tricks, um, and support one another in more ways than just the physical development side. And what Leisure Club I think has been able to do is be kind of I don't want to say this, like an asymmetrical platform for multiple communities to come and engage with one another. So it might be one person who represents, like, let's say, a board game community, and then another person that represents a running community, and they are in the same space at Leisure Club for whatever purpose, and they collide over the fact that they both really enjoy tennis shoes, and they can now kind of um, they can connect, and they can start to construct that new idea, and then they're bringing their respective communities together. And then that is what kind of defines the culture, is bringing those communities from different areas together. You can get insulated, but then you just create a more like just a bigger bubble of the same thing. But if you can kind of Venn diagram bubbles into bubbles, I think that's where you're going to get the essence of your city.
And I think that's what's really unique about what you're doing is because I can't think of a lot of places where that happens, right? Where you have these different communities kind of meshing or even at a bar you could have different communities there, but they're usually all in their own little bubble. They're not actively like, "Oh, you like beer, I like beer. Let's talk about this IPA." It's usually they're off on their own groups where here it's something much deeper than just that face value, you know, connection.
100%.
I would love to know, like, your thoughts on the digital age and the impact that's had on third spaces and on people.
It's interesting. Obviously, on people's lives are super digitized now. Their communities are online, but that's still a miss because you need physical presence, I think, to actually feel people's energy. I can't feel that keyboard warrior's anger on the other side of the Facebook post, but I can feel someone's excitement in the presence of a really good musician, and that excites me. And that's a part of like really feeling alive, is knowing the physical sensation of being alive. And I think digitization removes that physicality. I mean, fully. And so what that does to people, I think it isolates them and sends them kind of into a navel gazing spiral. That makes
What
sense.
do you mean by that? Navel gazing spiral.
I think if you're forced into a world where you're making content for the digital world, and maybe you're putting yourself on display. You're also communicating with others only digitally. Your only company is you. And so you are only thinking about you. Navel gazing is just is like being so self-consumed. You're just like me, 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 me. And that's where depression starts to really take fold. And I think the anxiety and, OCD and all of the conditions that are being diagnosed right now, I think are not caused by, but tied to. Yeah. Uh, what's the word? Correlated. Not cause, but there's correlation in there. And I feel like third spaces have died. Like we're watching it happen all over. Starbucks doesn't allow it to happen at their places anymore. You can find it occasionally organically in the back corner of a McDonald's at like 6 a.m. on a Sunday where there's a group of old veterans like hanging out. That's an organic observation of like third places happen. Whether you want them to or not, they're going to happen. So what's important is trying to put that on full display, or I don't know, bring it full circle. That's where people get filled up, is in the presence of others. Your energy changes, as like sounds like total high talk or total woo woo, but it's not. It's truth. Your energy can be affected by a group of other people. And if those other people are chilled out, or if those people are elated or happy or anxious or scared, you're also going to respond similarly. You might have the mental faculties to like stop it in the moment and go, okay, let me take inventory here. All of these people are freaked out. Do I need to also be freaked out, or can I be calmed down? But a lot of times I don't know that everyone has that ability to break out of their um, state and observe themselves externally to know that they're being influenced by energy. So energy is like such a big part of it all. That makes, I don't think that answers your question very
Well,
well, but
it does, because I think when you look at, to your point, when someone's really consumed in the digital, they really lose focus on reality, and I think that's what third spaces do an incredible job at, is grounding people in their realities, in their communities, because on social media, I mean, people are sharing just the positive things, right? And, because they're forced to in a single post, right? When you have a long conversation with someone in person, after, they tell you, yeah, things at work are going well, or this is going fine, eventually they start going like, oh man, this is just pissing me off, or something to that extent, right? You start to get to the real nature of people, I think, in third spaces, 'cause it's so revealing, which is why I wonder, and I'd love,
yeah, that's a great point.
yeah, which is why I wonder, it's like, what are you I'd really be curious to know, in the third spaces that you've been in, do you see, outside of Leisure Club, what is something that is lacking? Like, what is something
Ah,
that can help cultivate this?
interesting. So I think my observation is, as all these member clubs are starting to come online, you're looking at the old country club model just kind of being shattered. Instead of paying like $5,000 a month, now I can spend $100 a month on 50 different things. Um, I think the membership clubs are coming online right now. A lot of them are very serious, and they're very one-dimensionally focused. So you think of like production, labor, and leisure. In production, you've got your wellness movement. In labor, you've got your co-working movement. And in leisure, you have a mix of like run clubs and music events. The one, and those are cool, but I think the one thing that's missing across the board is the fun factor. They're all very serious. They're not really they're not really being authentic and playful and making themselves vulnerable in a way, because brands are people, people are brands. They're not making themselves vulnerable and being their goofy selves. They're all polished and buttoned up and don't smile at the camera while they're popping their collar. It's like, have some fun, smile, make something that's not serious. Um, because I think that there's a point where if you get too serious, that it cracks and it doesn't
Negates the whole purpose.
Yeah, it negates the whole purpose. And then and then on the opposite side of that too, if it's too fun, then it's, it's irresponsible and it's not really,
It's just a party house. Yeah, it's yeah, you don't have any of that structure or that ability to cross-contaminate those groups. It's a weird way of saying it, but yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, fully. So there's a middle ground in there. I mean, it's all gray. It's not black and white. It's all gray,
Most things are, I feel.
Yeah.
I would be really interested because one of the things on this podcast that I want to focus on is specifically the hyper localness of Columbus, and I think you have done a good job at cultivating a space in Columbus. What is the state of third spaces in your mind?
Mm. Blossoming. Blossoming right now. I think it's everything's coming back online. I don't think it's just Columbus. I think what we're seeing right now too is this kind of homogenization of national culture that's taking place through the digitization, where you like look at cities like Charlotte or Atlanta or Austin or Nashville, and same things are happening there that are happening here. They're just kind of painted a little differently, you know. There's no new wheels really being invented. I think Moore's law has caught up with us. I think we're here. I think the future's dead smack in our face right now. And so the idea of anything new really coming online isn't as possible as it used to be, or it's more difficult. New things are going to be a lot more difficult. So it's just going to be a lot of the same things done differently. That makes sense. It's just a different math equation for the same formula. If that makes sense.
Another question about Leisure Club. How would you kind of define your vibe if you were to give the elevator pitch to someone?
Nostalgically inspired. Yeah, nostalgically inspired. I feel like not make it great again, but make it more focused on our commonalities than our differences. I want people in there to see the nostalgic imagery, and it sparks an individual memory for them that is also a collective memory for us. You see images of like Elvis or Michael Jordan or the Beatles or Biggie or Tupac, and you have an individual experience with that media or that avatar. I have an individual experience with that thing. And together we've had an experience on that. And so we can debate on whether or not Tupac or Biggie are the best rappers, or if Michael Jordan's the GOAT. And it creates this conversation topic that opens up towards agreeableness, which is the best way to start an argument, is agreeing. And I feel like that agreeableness, like creating opportunities for agreeableness, helps us focus on our commonalities and not our differences. And that unification of communities is the true meat of what we're supposed to be doing here. America, it's the beauty of where we live right now, is the opportunity to exist with other people of different geographic origins and different ideological structures. We can all live harmoniously, and we don't really have places where that can be like put on display. We have common spaces like parks or zoos where multiple individuals are hanging out, but that's not the focus. They're not really.
It's not the format.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And at Leisure Club, you can come in there and know that everyone in there is of a similar mindset. We love people. We love humanity. We're here to be kind and peaceful people. Don't care about your politics. Don't care about what you do in your home. None of that matters. What matters is that you're a human being and you deserve love and respect just like all the rest of us. So when we're in here, you're safe. You're cool. I don't want to politicize it by saying it's a safe space, because there may be offensive opinions that come up, but that's not really. We're not here to protect people's feelings.
But, and it's all on a common ground. You guys are all starting on that same base, which, there was a saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but basically the best debates start on common ground or something like that.
100%.
And it just goes to that. And the whole nostalgia tie goes back to what you were saying earlier about creating that vulnerability, because it invokes something in you that maybe you haven't felt in a while. Like, well, what am I doing here? I'm in this space and I'm feeling something I haven't felt in a while. And it just opens you up to feel more receptive to the community, I feel. Yeah,
Yep.
I love that. Few more questions for you. And I want to, Columbus as a whole, what excites you and what concerns you looking at Columbus now?
Columbus is still such a baby on the like global city scale. Even on the continental city scale, it's still pretty young. Um, what excites me about Columbus? You're gonna have to cut out this long pause. I gotta think about that. I think it's the access to human capital. There are so many people in this city that are all looking to do great things, and they're just a phone call away. Legitimately, I can see other people it's a small high school. If there's anybody between the ages of 25 and 55 trying to do something entrepreneurial, that class of people is not hard to access. When you're in there, you're gonna meet a bunch of like-minded individuals that are all looking to impart a part of themselves into the identity of the city. I think people here really care about it. I guess I am excited about um, the connections that come out of Columbus, and the intent of a lot of the business owners that I've met. Every person I've met in Columbus is like heartfelt, intentional. They may seem guarded at first, but I think for all intents and purposes, everybody here is like rowing in the same direction. We see an opportunity with the levels of investment that are being made here, the kind of evergreen industries that are here. Um, I think everyone that I've interacted with here is been pretty outstanding. So I'm excited more about the people here. What I'm concerned about here are uh, maybe it's the overzealousness of Columbus. Like Columbus, it has little brother syndrome in a lot of ways.
So accurate.
It's like, no, you're okay. Like we're not the Austin of.
Yeah, you don't need to be Austin, Texas. You're your own thing.
We're the Austin of the Midwest. Well, we're the Portland of the
Just
Midwest.
be Columbus of the
Right.
Midwest.
Yeah, exactly. Or like if Nashville meets Austin meets Portland, that's us. You're like, no, you're just Columbus. I do wish. I think one of the things I'm disappointed in Columbus is their lack of support for the arts. They talk about it. It's a lot of talk, and it feels like a lot of placation to the creative community here. Um, we have a thing called Gallery Hop, and it's like 3 galleries. There's not an art market here. We struggle to um, uh, bring in. We can do what we want with language to try to lock down our creative capital here through the marketing that they do through the different government organizations. But we're not drawing in creative power here by the things that we have. So we need to build an infrastructure that draws in people. Our museum is of the 5 major cities in Ohio. Let's call them Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus, Cleveland, and maybe Akron, Canton. I think Columbus is like one of the weaker creative scenes. And I think that people from Cleveland and Cincinnati would also say the same thing of their own cities. Um, and I want to be careful of being too shitty about Columbus, because I read this like street sign one time. Somebody like spray painted something down on campus, and it was like, Columbus sucks because you suck. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. If I'm just shitting on Columbus all the time, it's going to continue to suck. So I love Columbus. I love the people here. I love the creative capital that we have here. I love the access to human capital that we have. I want more from it though. I think maybe that's my miss on my part, but like I just desire for it to want more from itself.
But I also feel like you're working towards that. You're not just sitting there and saying that you're creating these spaces. You're actively producing art and you're connecting other artists to a platform. So it's not, we are our own worst critic in a way, which is what you were alluding to earlier. What would your message be then to people in Columbus who are, maybe just getting their foot wet in the art scene or in the, you know, community of creators?
Seek support, like seek out other creators and communicate with them. Like don't feel like you're in a vacuum. Don't feel like you have to do everything all by yourself. I'm speaking from my own personal experience. You know, I have felt that Columbus has not been super receptive. As hard as I have jumped up and down, doing jumping jacks, screaming at the top of my lungs for creative attention, um, I have been, I think, dismissive and felt like I needed to do everything on my own. And it wasn't until recently where I was like, no, there's still people here that want to participate and help out and be involved. And I have just been introduced to an enormous community of creative, entrepreneurial, independent people that are really killing the game. So I'm excited about Columbus for that.
That's exciting. Last question I have for you, unless there's anything else you want to touch on, but I always like asking this to people. In Columbus, obviously you're a little biased because of Leisure Club, but bars, restaurants, places you just like to hang, what would you shout out right now?
Would I shout out right now? Wow. Man, I'm trying to think. I mean, Columbus is just, it's the number one test market in the US, so we are not missing any real great experiences. Where have I been recently that was just like over the moon? Man, big fan of Rise Brands. Love pins. Love No Soliciting. Love 80 East. Gretchen Bonasera is crushing it right now with 80 East and 114 in Plain City. Love Opa up in Delaware. Great. They have the largest bourbon collection in Ohio. Cover my mic there. The largest bourbon collection in Ohio. They have 8,000 bottles of bourbon from all over the world. Anything you want, they've got. It's absolutely phenomenal. Trying to think. Obviously, big fan of Columbus Brewing Company.
Your neighbor?
My neighbor, yeah, seriously. I love drinking garage beer, but I like drinking CBC IPA straight from the vats, pretty much. They're like direct line from the.
Cold in the
Oh
glass.
my
Yeah, right
gosh,
out.
it's my favorite. It's my favorite beer in Columbus. I'm so grateful to work next door to them. But yeah, the East Market. There's a ton of great vendors in the East Market that I love. I love all of Josh Dalton's creations. Yeah, Columbus is just chock full of great things, man.
Truly, I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate the invite. Now it's really nice to be able to share the story and, um, you know, hopefully invite people out to be a member at Leisure Club.
There we go. That's
Yeah.
how I'll end it. Awesome.
Sweet.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Connor.